base of our door. And you can do different things. You can trim it so it's nice and neat, which I will at least trim the edges off of this so that the edges are straight. But sometimes these little shapes that you get from your pasta machine when you're rolling it out, sometimes they make interesting shapes, but I'm not going to just stick with a plain shape today. And I think this didn't end up being cut very straight, so I'm going to cut that again. And it doesn't have to be perfectly straight because most of it's going to get covered up. But I think I will at least cut this part off. And what I may do, let me take my needle tool and kind of sketch out the shape of the actual door. And I like mine to be pointed in the middle. And see how that looks. I think that would make a good door. So we don't need a whole lot above it, and I will arch it a little bit before I cut, just to give it a little bit of character. I'm not a straight line person. I kind of like the curves and things, so I pretty much do most of my things with a curve. So, and you can see it's not real straight, but it's not a big deal. I'm going to lay this over next with my other scrap clay that I cut off a little while ago. But this is just the shape of our door. We're going to add the door on top of this so it'll be nice and thick. And I decided I was going to try using, well actually I started with the rose gold glitter, and that was just too dry. I couldn't use it. I'm going to try with the gold, the yellow gold glitter, and cut a straight bottom. And you can do a couple of things. You can take a card, an index card, and take a pencil. Let me see if I can find a pencil in here. All I see are pens. I'll use a pen. And kind of like this side better, I'm going to put this up next to the, well, let me trim this off because I've got writing on the bottom. I don't want ink getting on my clay. Not that it would hurt brown clay. But I'm going to, let me do it this way. I'm going to mark the bottom width, and then I'm going to match that up, and then I'm going to see where the top comes. The top is right about there. So what I'm going to do is fold this in half where those two marks are. And this is where the top is, and I'm just going to come out from that top and just make a little arch. Now that didn't come quite all the way out to my mark, so I'm just going to fix it. Okay, so now I'm going to take scissors, and this is still folded in half, and I'm going to cut this out. And this will be the shape of my fairy door. Now you can see the lines on there, but this is just a template to use. So I'm going to lay that there and see how it looks, and I think that's going to be great. So I'm going to put this on my gold clay. Kind of press it down a little bit so it'll stick. And maybe I'll just use a knife. See this? I had my X-Acto blade and I couldn't find the top that went with it, so I just took some scrap clay and put it in here, stuck it over my blade, pulled it out, laid it, put it in the oven and baked it. So now I have a pretty top. I'll never lose that one. But anyway, I'll just take my blade and And again, you don't have to be exact because you're not going to see the edges that much either. But all of this clay is available on Tupelo Designs LLC. So let me put this back. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it on my platform, or the base, whatever you want to call it, and press it into shape. Now another thing I like to do is I like to cut or put something in the middle for a peephole or a decoration. Let me see if I want to do that first. Why not? So let me look in my cutters and see what I can find that might make a nice peephole. Let's see. I have a heart, so let's try a heart. And let's just put it right there and cut all the way through both layers, because you can't see through it if there's a background on it. So see, I cut through both layers. So there's my little peephole. I would also like to put a rim around it, and I neglected to get out clay for that. I wanted to try the Rhino Gray. Because I want to make rocks out of it. I've also got this real pretty let me just see how this looks. This Rhino Gray is a little brown. I have this graphite pearl, and it's a Primo accent. I might try that just to see what this looks like. I've never used this color before. It's a new color. It's come out just not recently, but since, because I bought it a while back. But it's a pretty, looks like a pretty dark gray. If it's too dark, I'll just add a little bit of white. And I'm only going to cut off one square. And again, this is Primo Accents Graphite Pearl. So this is going to have a shine to it, which will go with the glitter look. Now I'm going to need to condition this. So let me, well, I'll go ahead and do it. And if the video gets to be too long, I will just cut it. So let me just run this through the pasta machine. See how much quicker it is to condition when you use a pasta machine. I know you can't see what I'm doing because I don't think my camera will pick that up at a very good angle. But I've run this through the pasta machine. Oh, what did I do? 10 times or whatever. Now I'm going to start pulling off little places, little balls. And roll them into a little ball and place them along the edge, and I'm going to press it so that it'll look like a rock. You want to make them excuse me, different sizes, because you know when you go out and you find rocks and pebbles, they're not all alike. Some of them are odd shaped, so let me make one that goes out that way. But this is just going to be like the door frame. The door can't just sit by itself. It's got to have a frame. So this one's a little big, so I'm going to put that down there on the bottom and just keep making little balls. And they don't have to be as big as this. I just want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. But this is going to be like little rocks. Just imagine that you're a little fairy and you're building a teeny tiny little house. And what would you use to make your door sturdy but rocks and pebbles? So there we go. And the thing about pearl clay, and you can maybe see it on this rock, it's going to have, because of the pearl mica that's in it, when you're messing with it and you try to get all the mica particles aligned, which gives it a shiny look. But then when you start rolling it and moving it and folding it, you see the sides of those mica particles. And that adds this color, but it kind of looks good because it makes it look like real rocks, because rocks aren't a solid color either. So this is going to be just a fun little door. That was probably a little too big, but that's okay. I'll put some smaller rocks, like down in here there's a space, so I need a teeny tiny little rock to go in there. Just to fill in the space. And it just makes it look more real. And when you get up to the top, you can do a couple of things. Let's go ahead and do one. Well, this isn't going to be enough clay. You can get, like, on a building, they have a cornerstone. And then they also have a capstone, which is the one up at the top that kind of holds everything together. So let's make a longer rock. Let me roll it into a ball first and then flatten it out. And make a little point in it. That's way too fat. So let me just cut it in half. And like I say, the little differences in color and everything really make it look good. But then that will be the capstone, and that's in the middle. And it doesn't matter if it sticks up over the edge. This is just a frame to support what you're doing. So there we go. So now let me put a little rock over here or something, just so those two over there don't look out of place. It'll look like they belong there. And where some of these smaller rocks are, you can put little ones there just to make it look like they were trying to make it even. You can just use your imagination. So there we go. There's the rock frame for your door. Now, let's see, what else can we do? We need a doorknob. And let's see, what could we use as a doorknob? Sometimes I leave things here on my table here, but I have cleaned it recently, so there may not be any cute little things sitting here. But I find different things. Sometimes, what is this? That's a little, I think I'll make that a door knocker. But I don't really see anything here that would make a cute little doorknob. So let's make one. Let's see, if I were to make a doorknob for a fairy house, what color would it be? See, this is yellow gold glitter. So why don't I just use a piece of this brown, because it's not going to be predominant. Okay, I'm going to take a little round piece of brown clay and place it on my door as a base. And I'm going to take the bar side of a toggle. This is a little bronze toggle that I have. And I'm going to take the little ring right here that normally goes, that you usually put wire through, but I'm going to use that to stick it in there into the clay. And there is my little doorknob. A real fancy doorknob. And I'm going to take the ring part of that toggle, and I'm thinking I'm going to make another little brown ball and mash it down and put it right under the heart. I'm going to press the ring of that down here into the clay. Then I'm going to take another tiny little ball and put it over, well, I dropped it. Let me get it out with my needle tool. I'm going to press this right over where that little ring is. And there's a door knocker. So now we have a fancy doorknob and a door knocker. Probably should have brought the doorknob down a little bit, but that's okay. So now I might also take some of this brown clay. This is all rolled on the thickest setting of my pasta machine. I'm going to go down to a number 5, I believe. And we need to put some hinges on here. Something's got to attach the door. So I was just thinking maybe just some triangles. And I'm going to cut this down. And let's see. Maybe that big. And I'll make another one next to it so they'll be about the same size. Just make 2 triangles. Whoops, where'd this one go? There it is. And lay them here, one at the top and one at the bottom. Just tap them so they'll attach. And we'll keep them both down here because before the curve starts. Then I'll just take a ball tool and make some little screw holes. Maybe put 2 there, put 2 on the point and 1 on each corner. So now you've got hinges on your door. So now the door is functional in theory. If you think about it, it's not really functional because it's not going to open, but it looks like it could open. So now we're done with that part of the door. So now let's add some decorations. And what I thought I would do is, I've got different things here. This is, I believe this is Spanish olive. No, this is jungle. This is Primo Jungle. Probably what I need to do is put this on an index card so I can move it out of the way when I need to, like now. Just be careful. You don't want to mess up what you've done. So just take your blade or any kind of scraper that you have and just go under it gently. Pry it up from your surface and then you lay it on an index card, and you can bake it on this index card too. Looks like I got a little piece of the glitter clay on the rocks, but that was easy to pick up. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm just going to take some jungle and roll it into some little tiny snakes. Make sure the air is all out of it. Probably better to start with a little ball. and make some little snakes. Because there's got to be some kind of greenery around this door, because fairy doors are hidden so that nobody will find them and disturb them. So let's just make this little tiny little snake, and then take your door and let's start it down here at the bottom and just attach it, and then just kind of wind it a little bit. You can even make little loops if you want. I'll make a little loop here, because this is going to be a vine. It's too small. A fairy house, a fairy door, which goes into a fairy house, is much too small to have a tree, so we do vines instead. Again, I'm going to just and you can see how small this ball of clay is. It's not very big, maybe not even 1/4 of an inch. But it'll make a really nice long vine because you want it to be skinny. And just keep rolling until it's as skinny as you want it. And I think this one's going to wrap around this rock. If I can get it to attach, right? Can't seem to get it where I want it. There you go. And just let it do its own thing. We'll make another little loop and bring the point around. So there, we have a vine. And now we need some leaves. Now I think I might do the leaves in a little bit brighter green. So I got out some wasabi. No, this is bright green pearl. Thought it was wasabi, but that's okay. It's a light green and it'll work. Just kind of make sure it gets conditioned. Just squeeze it a few times. You know, this little bit of clay, there's no sense in rolling it through the pasta machine. But just make sure it's warmed up and it's all fully blended. And there, it's getting soft now. So we're getting there. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to flatten it out with my roller. And again, because this is a pearl clay, you're going to have these little lines because we're messing with the mica particles. And what I'm going to do, well, first I need to get this unstuck from my tile. But what I'm going to do is just cut little teardrop shapes. And I'm just going to use a tool that I have here on my desk. Just cut some little teardrops. Actually, I'll tell you a better way to do that. All this comes to me as I'm working. This happens to me a lot. Don't worry about it. It'll happen to you too. Take a little ball and roll it into a teardrop and then mash it. Then take your needle tool, which is right here, and just take your needle tool and make a vein down the middle, and then a couple little veins going to the side, and then find where you want to put it and just press it on. Now I'm going to be doing a lot of these, and I know you don't want to watch me make all of these, so I'm going to make a couple more just so you can watch me again. And this one's going to be a little bit bigger, so this will probably go towards the bottom. just take a needle tool and draw your veins. Because after this is over, we're going to antique it, and all these little veins that you put in here will show up. And there's more room over here, so let me just put this one over here. And that's all you do. Just keep making your little teardrops. Make them all different sizes. Make a ball, make a tear, roll it on one side to make a teardrop, make it flat, and then just draw some little veins on it. And they don't even have to be neat, because any texture you add to it is just going to look really nice. And I'll put this up towards the top because it's a little bitty leaf. There, how about right there? So I'm going to add some more leaves, and I'll be back. I'm going to sneak back in just for a minute to show you a quicker way to make all these leaves. Is get you some conditioned clay, some kind of a light green or bright green, like, you know, this, I said this is the bright green pearl. Condition a ball of clay, roll it into a snake, and then just cut off different size pieces. And then each one of these can become a leaf, and it's just a lot quicker than trying to roll individual leaves. So just wanted to pop in and show you that, and I will be back when I'm finished. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I've finished putting the leaves around my door, and I do have a few extras if I change my mind and decide to add some more. But I've also done the same thing with the Primo Wisteria clay. I rolled it into a snake and then just chopped it into small little pieces. Now you can do two different things. You can roll these into little balls and put them on here. Let me do this one over here because this one can be a bud. Just put a single one there, take a toothpick, and just go like, you know, press it, and it looks like a little flower bud. Although the flower bud needs to be facing the leaf. And you can do that, go around, you can do, let me show you two different types of flowers. You can take the little balls, and I'll do 5, I believe. Roll 5 little balls. Let me find it. Let me put it on this green clay, or I'll put it on this heart. That'll be pretty. And you can take them and put them in a little circle. Actually, that one's a little big. Let me find a smaller one. Make a little circle. Of course, you would be doing this on your door, but I just wanted to show you different types of flowers you can do. 3, 4. And put a 5th one right there. And then take your toothpick and just press into the center. And see, that would be a little flower. Or you can do a cascading, because this is wisteria, that's the name of it. You can do a cascading flower by pressing little balls of clay into each other and just leaving them the way they are. It's easier when you're putting it on clay. So it won't stick to your, it'll stick, but just keep rolling little balls and group them together. And think about it like a thing of grapes. But that's what a wisteria is like. And thinking about the name of the clay, I kind of thought it would be nice to have the little clusters. Oops, that's not a circle, is it? And just make it into a little, make it a little bit wider, maybe one more row of little circles. Like I said, it's easier when it's on clay and it sticks. But I want to see what this looks like before I try to put it on my door. And it's okay, that one's a little bit bigger, but if that's going to be at the base, it's okay for it to be a little bit bigger. Just pinch some off if you don't want it to be so big. But you could put a little flower, well, I just folded it up on itself. Like I said, it'd be easier if this was on clay where it was sticking. Let me just do it on here, because I think this is what I want to do. So let me just start here. Let it stick to some clay. That makes it so much easier. And just put the little balls on in whatever design or cluster you want. And it can either look like little grapes or it can look like a little wisteria. All right, that one fell there, so let's leave it there. But just continue putting your little balls in little clusters. And again, it doesn't matter. This is fantasy. They don't have to look perfect. You could mix your clay. You could have mix a little white with it so they would be purple and white flowers instead of just purple flowers. Maybe they wouldn't look so much like grapes. But that's all right. Maybe this fairy likes grapes. I like grapes. But you can see you can just do so many different things to decorate. But I'm going to continue decorating in these little clusters. Because I think it looks cute the way it's coming together. And you may fast forward through this if you like. I don't like making too many cuts in my videos, because then it kind of looks chopped up. But just make little clusters. Or if you'd rather have a shaped flower, you can do a little flower like this one. And just make those and put those on. I just kind of like these little clusters today. Tomorrow I might like the flowers. But just continue doing this. Start another one there. The main idea is just to have fun. You know, we don't ever want our claying to be a chore. It's got to be fun. And believe me, today I need some fun. I've had a dog to the vet today, and it really threw a kink in my day. But she's okay. But it just was a little traumatic for me. And her. And this claying relaxes me. So that's why I decided to come back and do this video. I'm recording this ahead of time. I'm not recording this on Monday. But I needed to clay and decided I would go ahead and do my design team video today, because it would give me an excuse to get my fingers in the clay. That one's getting a little misshapen. Let me see how I can fix that. Probably because of that big one there in the middle. Let me do it that way and make it cascade. It looks better. Let's see, we still need something down in this corner. But let me finish this. There it is. These balls are so tiny I was losing them. Now make one more flower. Oops, I knocked my doorknob off. Sorry for the silence. I just get that way sometimes when I'm working and I don't even think, since there really isn't anybody in the room with me, sometimes I forget to talk. And there. Now another thing you can do, and I'll do this with my toothpick, and I should have done this before I put the decorations on, and that's to draw little lines in the door to make it look like wood. And like I say, after we bake this, I'm going to antique it, and all of these marks that we make will show up better. Let me see if I can get in here without messing everything up. And these lines, of course, if you figure this little fairy cut the wood herself, himself, I don't know. I've always thought of fairies as being little girls, but I guess it could be a little boy fairy. And then just maybe put some cross cuts in it in case they didn't use full pieces of wood, that they had to nail them together. Could put a couple little nail holes in there. You can be as detailed or as plain as you want to be. But I know this is upside down for you. I'm going to turn it around, hopefully, if I can remember. But I'm going to bake this before we make our base, and I will come back after it's baked and we'll make the base for it and put this together. Okay, I'm back, and I just realized something that I didn't do that I should have done before I baked the door, which just came out of the oven. It's still a little warm, and that is to make the base, because this little door needs to sit on something. So I'm going to measure this door, and it is 3 1/4 inches wide. So I think I'm going to cut, let's see, 3 1/4. I'll just add a little bit on each side, so I think I'll just cut it 4 inches. Let me cut this side straight first. And I'll cut it 4 inches wide, and that way it'll come out a little beyond the door. Okay, and right there is 4 inches. And let me come up here and mark 4 inches. Now I'm doing this with the scrap clay, but I'm going to cover this with something else. And the reason I'm making it so big, so thick, is when you put the door up, because of all the extras you've put on here, it's going to make it a little front heavy, if you know what I mean by that. So if you make it a little bit wider than the base, have a little bit on the back and then have more on the front with some weight, then it will balance out the weight a little bit. So I think this is going to be fine. Let's see, this is 4 inches also. And that's 4 inches. How about that? How did I do that? Anyway, I'm going to cut this in half and stack it. So, right there. And I'm going to put something on top of it. So it's actually going to make it about 3 layers thick. And I don't know why I'm being so particular, because I can just take this and trim it off, which I'm going to do after I finish with this. And I need to condition some more of this graphite pearl. I love this color. It's such a rich color. Well, actually, yeah, I will do this. Okay, I've conditioned the graphite pearl, and I'm just going to lay it on top and hope I can get it to cover. Lay it on top of the scrap pieces, and I can then turn it over. That's not very straight, is it? But I'm just going to trim all 4 sides so it can be straight. Like I said, this is not an exact science. If you want exact, then maybe polymer clay is not your not your medium. Especially if you're like me and just like to play. Okay, so now I've got the gray on top of the brown. And if you want, you can push these down, which I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to push them down with my fingers just to round it, but also to cover up that brown. But this is going to turn into a stone, like a little porch or just a little place, a landing right at the base of the door. So I'm just pressing that down. And again, this is supposed to be stone, so it can be, you can have little dents and ripples and everything. Now the back doesn't matter, because what we're going to do is we're going to mount this on the front, and then the back will be the back. Actually, I think I'm going to just make an impression right now of the door, so we'll know where we can do our marks. Now you can take a ball tool, you can take a needle tool, you can take a toothpick, and just kind of draw some stones. And, you know, just go from one to the other. You'll get these little ripples, little balls of clay that will come up. You can make different designs, different shapes, because again, these are supposed to be stones. It's like a flagstone type thing. You can have some small ones and some large ones. And they can come all the way down the edge. So you can make your design come all the way down. And just wipe your ball tool off once in a while to get rid of the little rolled up pieces of clay. And just make it look however you want it. But this will be like a flagstone that will be at the front door. There. Now, I should, like I said, I should have baked this at the same time that I baked the door, but I didn't, and I apologize. Let me get another, I'm going to have to bake it, so I'm going to put this on another piece of cardstock. So I can move it. And I will have a picture of the finished, well, I shaved a little bit off, that's okay. I will have a picture of the finished one that shows this, because this will need to be antiqued also. But in the meantime, let me put this in the oven so it can be baking, so I can get your picture done for you. So my oven is right here. I always bake my clay at 275 degrees, which is the normal baking temperature for a Primo. But I always bake it at, I don't know what color that is, it's too little. I always bake it at, for at least an hour. Because I like my things to be strong, and as long as you don't go over the temperature, the recommended temperature, then your clay will just get stronger the longer that it sits. So to start off with, I'm going to antique this, and to do that, I'm going to use just a little bit of brown clay, brown paint, and this can be any acrylic paint. And I'm just going to put it here on my tile. Just put a little bit here on, whoops. It's got some dried paint on the top. Let me get that off before I get started, or it's going to get into my paint. Anyway, just squirt a little bit of paint here on whatever work surface you're using. This is about out, isn't it? There you go. You don't need much, just a dab. And then just get a brush full of water, because you don't want pure paint. You don't want to paint it brown, you just want to antique it. You can also use, if you happen to have painting supplies, if you have gel mediums, you could use that, but that would give it a little bit of a shine. So what we're going to do is just take this and cover the entire fairy door. I mean the entire door. Just use your brush to get it down in all the little nooks and crannies. Make sure it gets down in that door where I put the lines for the wood. And you're probably wondering why in the world I'm ruining my beautiful little fairy door by doing this. But you're going to see it's going to bring out some of the detail that you can't see, because when it's just a matte finish, the details just kind of disappear. I'm probably going to take that off the tile, although it did make it easy to turn. I think I'll leave it on after thinking about it. And I may need to use a little bit more paint, but I'll use what I've got first. This might work. But if your polymer clay is cured, going over it like this rough with a brush is not going to hurt it. But even your purple flowers, you need to get it into those purple flowers. And you may find with some of these paints that it repels on some of the clay. You just take a paper towel and wipe it off. And what you're doing is you're wiping off the paint on the surface, but it's staying, see, like the cracks in the door? I'll need to get in there with no, I got it okay. You can get a Q-tip to get into these places that you can't reach with a paper towel. And just wipe it off. And you can see that the detail on the leaves, see, you can see the little vein marks that I made on the leaves. They show up. The grapes, because I've decided these look like grapes, they show up. It just gives it that finished look. And this is called antiquing. And we're going to do the same thing with the base when it comes out. Now the next thing you can do is take some, you can take some Inca Gold. This has already been baked. So you can take some Inca Gold, and I've got some that's called Hydrangea. And where is my brush? Here's my brush. I like to use a brush, but just take a little Inca Gold and put it on your brush and wipe onto a paper towel so you don't get too much, and just go over the purple on your grapes and see how they shine. And this is the hydrangea color that I'm putting on to the purple. Some of the brown was coming off. My paint's not dry. I should wait till it's totally dry, but that would make this a really long video. It's already getting long, so bear with me. Alright, so that's the purple. And you can just wipe it off. Now I think I need some green for the leaves. Make that a little shiny. Let me try this green. But just put some of that on your leaves and it'll bring a little bit of shine to your leaves. You can put it on the vine also if you want. If you feel like it's disappeared a little bit from the paint, you can just take some of the green and put it on there also. But you just add a little bit of color. You don't need to add a lot. And the Inca Gold's really what it does. It adds a little bit of color, but it's mostly just a colorful shine. But especially places where you didn't wipe all the brown off, put them on there. But it doesn't cover up the brown veins that you've got in there. And I don't think I'm going to do anything else. I think it looks cute just the way it is. If you want a glossy finish, you can always put a glaze on it. I am not one to use glazes. I don't particularly care for glazes. I think polymer clay by itself is very pretty. Got a little bit there that I didn't wipe off, and I'm just going to wet a Q-tip because this was just acrylic paint, so the water will water it down, but I had too much brown up underneath here. Now my little doorknob doesn't seem to want to stay, which is no problem. I'm just going to pull it out and put in a little bit of super glue, whatever type super glue you prefer to use. This one might finally have run out. There's got a little drop there. And then stick this back in, and it will be there pretty permanently after this. But there is your fairy door. And I think it's cute. And what we'll do, I'll antique the base when it comes out of the oven. And then all I'll do is use some glue. I will probably use some super glue or maybe some E6000 or any type of good glue. I could even use glossy accents. And lay this down at the base. Remember where I made the mark? And it will make a real pretty little fairy door that you can sit up against your wall. It can be up on your mantle. It can sit on the floor, up against your baseboard, any place where it can fit up against the wall, and then people will think you have a little fairy that lives at your house. So I hope you enjoyed this video and this tutorial. Come back again next Monday for another exciting thing. I hope it'll be exciting. Another video on polymer clay. And please shop at Tupelo Designs LLC. They have everything you need for crafting and for polymer clay. So I thank you very much for watching, and I will be back next week. Bye-bye.